Okay, hi everyone. I would just like to welcome a performer to the stage. We have a stand-up comedian to perform for us. Let me welcome Kazi.
Hello, everyone. You guys ready to be less serious for about 15 minutes? I was supposed to introduce myself at first. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. This is really confusing. But okay. Hello, how are we doing? I'm so honored to be here. This is such a cool organization. I was surprised you guys wanted comedy, but I guess levity is really nice. I thought there was going to be a lot more kids. So we're going to have adults here. This is cool. Huh? You are all kids? Oh, you guys look like grown-ass people. Okay, so let's travel back in time a couple of years to the beginning of this debacle that was COVID. Do you guys remember the lockdowns? Like, I love Toronto, but we've had more lockdowns than Fast and the Furious movies at this point. Like, it's been a little nuts. But if you remember the first lockdown, the one before lockdown 2 Electric Boogaloo, everyone lost their minds. Like, no one was prepared, right? Like, people started hoarding toilet paper like it was currency, started elbowing grandmothers in the face while panicking at Costco. Like, I don't know why that was happening. Did anyone else learn 5 languages on Duolingo? No, because I have a little owl reminding me to practice Dothraki, because that's going to be a useful skill, right? When the apocalypse happens. Yeah, Dothraki key, right? Everyone started baking bread. Everyone started baking. You know why I know this? Because they told me, right? And also, if you went to the grocery store, they had flour shortages. They had yeast shortages. You know what they didn't have a shortage of? Actual freaking bread, right? Like, bread was rotting in the aisles. You couldn't get to any other groceries because bread was everywhere. No, and also, like, if you were working from home, people started like sending you email pictures of their bread creations and then whining about how their sourdough starter died. And I'm like, I don't care if your sourdough starter died. I hope you die, Susie. You know what I mean? Why can't COVID take this one? I'm going to take the temperature of the room real quick. How many of you are in pandemic couplings? Like, who hooked up during lockdown and now has Stockholm syndrome? Give it up for yourselves. No one? You see, if you have Stockholm syndrome, you don't know. That's why no one's applauding. You know what I mean? Okay, this might be more relatable. How many of you are pandemic breakups? Like, who realized the person they were with was a piece of crap and kicked them to the curb? Like, who did it? Or who got broken up with? Whatever. It's the same coin, both sides. Yeah, okay. You see, I knew it was more relatable. You know why? Because I was a pandemic breakup. Like, I was dating this guy, and for the first years of the pandemic, my boyfriend made a resolution. He wanted to take better care of his mental health. So he broke up with me on January 2nd. Like, ouch, but fair, you know, because I'm insane. But I was bummed. My husband was stoked, but I was sad. And you know the advice people give when you get dumped. They're like, get back out there, get back on the horse, you know? Or in my case, like, get back on the horse. But I couldn't do it because lockdowns, you know? Like, we were stuck inside. And no one was prepared for the first lockdown to date virtually, right? Everyone's camera was a potato. And you don't know if you have any physical chemistry with the other person. You don't know if the other person smells. Also, I live with my husband, so he's always photobombing my dates, you know? I guess what I'm trying to say is it's hard to date when you're married. But I'm not cheating on my husband, okay? We are polyamorous. Do you guys know what polyamory is here? I feel like this is the right crowd for it. But for anyone who doesn't know what polyamory is, it's a nice, ethical way of saying we're giant skanks and we like to bang. So someone please hook up with my husband, because I am tired. I am so tired of my husband. It's like turn on the take my wife please joke. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, so just, okay. So I know I've just talked about my boyfriend and my husband, but for those of you who can sort of see my hair, you can probably tell I am a gay. I am non-binary. Do we have any non-binary folk here? Yeah, okay, cool. Queers here? All right, I knew you guys were around. Okay. And yeah, so here's the thing. I didn't know that being non-binary was an option when I was in high school, because we didn't have Google yet. We had Ask Jeeves. Yeah. I wasn't going to ask a robot butler what my gender was, right? So I just assumed I was a trans man, you know? Or more like a trans teenage white boy. I listened to like a lot of Papa Roach and Linkin Park back then. Had a wallet with a chain on it, you know, I was a giant jerk. But yeah, so I used to tie my boobs down, wear a fake beard, you know, I dated exclusively girls. And my parents are Muslim immigrants from Bangladesh, and they're really cool with me bringing girls home. They're like, we moved to Canada. This is what Canadians do. they're all lesbians with beards. You know, just like that was their take on that. But here's the thing. I found out I was pansexual by mistake once by tripping and falling onto a dude. And I was like, oh no, I like boys too. And they don't like my beard, you know? Like, and I love saying pansexual over bisexual because I prefer that strangers think that I hook up with pans over that I don't exist, you know, because biphobia is really real, right? I know, but it's what you do for a defense mechanism. But yeah, so every once in a while, I'd bring a guy home. My dad was super excited. Like, he'd come to the door, he'd knock, he'd be like, Rush, what are you doing? And I'd be like, Dad, I'm busy, because that's what I thought a trans man sounded like. Anyway, so like just Chad Kruger from Nickelback. Anyway, my dad would leave. He'd come back, he'd knock on the door again, and he'd be like, do you want $20? And I'm like, so what I'm saying is every time I hooked up with a guy, my dad would slip a $20 bill under the door just to reaffirm that heteronormative activity was encouraged in the house. So if there are any men out here who want to make $10, I still live with my dad. Cool. Okay. Dating in the early 2000s. Anyone here dating in the early 2000s? How many of you were born in the early 2000s? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what this audience is. But yeah, dating in the early 2000s was really difficult because we didn't have the apps. We didn't have Tinder. We didn't have Grindr. We didn't even have cable internet. We had dial-up internet. Yeah, it would take like 3 days to download a fake nude of Britney Spears. By the time you got to her nipples, you're like, these are not her breasts. But I've already masturbated 16 times anyway. So you print it out, you put in your duotang for later because porn was hard, you know. Anyway, I met this girl online in a chat room. Right? You guys remember chat rooms? Yeah? Age, sex, location? Yeah. We used to talk to each other on the phone to describe ourselves to one another because we didn't have digital cameras. So I'm talking to her and she sounded like Ashanti. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to date Ashanti. This is going to be great. So I'm talking to her. I'm like, what's your ethnic background, if you don't mind me asking? And she didn't mind because it was 2001, right? So she's like, I'm half Jamaican, half Indian. I'm like, amazing. That's what I assume Ashanti is. I don't have Google yet. I'm like, what's your body like? She's like, I'm tall, fit, I have abs. I'm like, dope, 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 all the things I'm not. I'm like, do you look like a celebrity so I can picture it in my mind's eye because we don't have cameras? And she's like, I do. My friends say I look a lot like Ja Rule. I'm like, you know what? That's the same freaking music video. Let's go, right? And so she lived in Scarborough. I lived in Rexdale. If you guys know Toronto at all, that's a 3-hour transit situation. That's 2 subways and a bus. So I'm like, let's meet in the middle. Let's go to Yorkdale Mall, and I'm going to take you to the fanciest restaurant I can think of. Let's go to Rainforest frickin' Cafe. We can eat in front of the gorillas. There's a storm every 20 minutes. Let's go. So I was a Chad back then. I'm like, buy whatever you want, baby. I am paying, right? And she did buy whatever she wanted. Oops, right? She got this thing called the cedar wood plank salmon. Exactly what it sounds like. It's a piece of fish on wood for $30. $30. And for dessert, she got this thing called the volcano, which is 15 brownies on top of one another with whipped cream, ice cream, and sparklers on top. And the entire staff comes out screaming, volcano, 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 because we needed more attention. Being an interracial queer couple while my beard was falling off the table. And I spent $70 on her that night. $70, 2001, inflation. That's $3 million of now money. I could have bought a really tiny condo in Toronto, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh my God, I guess I gotta go back to Scarborough and hang out and bang Ja Rule tonight. Because she wasn't lying, she did look like Ja Rule. So I guess what I'm trying to say is dating in the early 2000s as a queer person is a lot like going to Firefest, you know? Because you gotta travel very far, you're spending a lot of money, Ja Rule is screwing you over, you know, just like all that stuff. And dating now isn't any better, okay? I was on a dating site, Hinge, not bragging, and this guy's profile was just 2 things. It was the word pure and a blood emoji next to it. And I'm looking at this profile, I'm like, pure blood? Pure blood. Is this mofo a Nazi? I'm like, oh no, he's anti-vax. And also a Nazi. Yeah, just 2 bad things. And like, people online have gone insane. Like, if you go to my Facebook, which I still use in a relevant way because I'm pretty old, right? And you take all of the ravers from my past, and you take all of the anti-vaxxers from my now, and you make a Venn diagram. That Venn diagram is a perfect freaking circle, you guys. I don't know what happened, right? It's like, dude, I've seen you snort cat tranquilizer off of a key that you found in a rave toilet. That is the appropriate look, right? But you're afraid of the jab. Like the vaccine's not going to be the worst thing that was in you. Derek was in you. And 9 out of 10 doctors agree Derek causes anal leakage. If Derek was medicine, that's the warning. Yeah, and here's the thing. Everyone is a conspiracy theorist now. Did you notice? If you go online, like they went on to like the University of YouTube and got degrees in stupid. And I hate conspiracy theorists, but I realized that my favorite way to get rid of a conspiracy theorist is to one-up them. For example, if someone's like, the earth is flat, the proper response is, oh my God, you think we're on earth right now? This is obviously a simulation. We're in the matrix, you know? Or the pandemic was planned. Like, of course it was planned. How else are you going to change the batteries in the birds? Birds.real.com, that's a real website. I didn't make it up for the joke. Or my favorite conspiracy is the moon landing was faked, right? This is when you gotta look someone dead in the eyes, go, I'm sorry, are you one of those mofos who believes in the moon? Right? Do you? Sheep. Okay, all right. I'm just gonna leave you guys on this because my time is basically up. I just wanna give you guys a piece of advice before I go. Can I do that? Okay. Did you know you could say no to a breakup? I know, this is really shocking for most people. So this is what happened. I was dating this guy and he wanted to break up with me because I was cheating on him. And I was like, no, thank you. And he's like, that's not how breakups work. And I'm like, well, it's 2013. It takes 2 of us to consent. Get woke, you know? And he's like, what? I'm like, I'll give you $5 right now to like bang me right now. And he's like, you don't have $5. So I went to my wallet, produced a toonie because I did not have $5. Anyway, that became our thing. Anytime I wanted to get laid or anytime I wanted to prevent another breakup because I kept cheating on him, I'd smack a toonie down. We'd go to town, right? And one day he thought it'd be really cute to flip it on me. He's like, I made lobster. Let's fricking do this. And he threw a toonie down onto the coffee table. And I was so offended. Like, how dare you offer me money for sex, you know? No one pays me for sex unless it's my dad. For those of you not laughing, I told that joke earlier when my dad gives me $20 every time I hook up with a guy. Just to remind you, it's called a callback in comedy. So if you like comedy and you didn't know that, I have taught you something, so you're welcome. Also, kangaroos can't fart. Yeah, I've taught you 2 things. I've been Kazi. Thank you so much. Bye.